The warning came too late. Don't look there. The words barely reached him, thin and shaken, carried on the dry evening wind. Elias Crow was already turning in the saddle, his body reacting before his mind could stop it. Dust floated in the air, glowing orange under the sinking sun, and the world felt paused, like the land itself was holding its breath. The cattle had gone quiet. That alone should have sent him riding back toward the house. Cows were never silent without reason. They lowed, shuffled, flicked tails, complained about heat and hunger and flies. Silence meant a predator. Silence meant death nearby. Elias had lived on this land long enough to know that. But this silence was different. It felt heavy, deliberate, as if it had been placed there. He looked. Beyond the leaning split-rail fence, past the scrub grass that refused to grow thick in that stretch of land, the ground dipped into a shallow ravine. The townsfolk called it Crow's Hollow, though never to his face. Horses avoided it, riders skirted around it even when it added miles to their journey. Elias had always pretended not to notice. Bad land, he'd said. Rock and shadow, nothing more. Something stood there now. It didn't move. It didn't sway with the breeze or shift its weight the way a living thing should. It simply stood, tall and upright, at the bottom of the ravine, as if it had been waiting for him. Elias felt his fingers loosen. The reins slipped through his hands, leather whispering softly as they fell against the horse's neck. His mare snorted and stamped, ears pinned back, sensing danger before he could name it. A shiver ran through her body, transferred straight into his legs. Beside him, Samuel slid off his horse too quickly, boots scraping rock. The boy backed away, eyes fixed on the ground like he was afraid even a glance might pull something loose. "I told you," he said, his voice barely holding together. "I told you not to look." Elias tried to breathe. His chest felt tight, like a fist had closed around his heart. "What am I looking at?" he asked, though the question felt foolish the moment it left his mouth. At first, the shape resembled a man. Tall, broad shoulders, long coat hanging stiffly from its frame. That familiarity almost comforted him, until he noticed what was wrong. The figure was too still. Not even the hem of the coat moved. And its posture was strange, too straight, too balanced, like something copying the idea of standing rather than actually doing it. Then it turned its head. Slowly, deliberately. The motion sent a jolt through Elias's spine, freezing him in place. His breath hitched, stuck halfway in his lungs. The face that emerged from the shadow was pale and stretched tight, skin drawn thin like it had been dried by years of sun and wind. The eyes were open, but empty, no fear, no anger, no life behind them. Just reflection. In recognition, Elias leaned forward without meaning to, his heart beginning to pound so hard he thought it might crack his ribs. The coat, the stitching along the sleeve, the way the collar sat unevenly. He knew that coat. He had sewn it himself one winter night by lantern light, hands numb with cold, cursing the wind that slipped through the barn boards. He remembered the smell of leather and smoke, the way the fabric scratched his knuckles. He remembered who it belonged to. "No," he whispered, the word tearing out of him. Behind him, Samuel made a small sound, halfway between a sob and a gasp. "That's why Pa left," the boy said. "That's why nobody goes near this place anymore." The world tilted. Elias's mind slipped backward, dragged into a memory he had buried so deep he'd almost convinced himself it was gone. A storm-lashed night, angry words thrown hard and sharp. A man, pulling on that very coat, jaw clenched, eyes burning with something Elias had refused to name at the time. "I'll be back by morning," the man had said. He never was. Elias had told the town it was an accident. Told them the ravine was unstable, that a horse could lose its footing. He told himself the same lie until it hardened into something livable. Years passed. Crops were planted and lost. Children grew. The town forgot. The land did not. The figure lifted one arm. The movement was slow, almost careful, like it was making sure Elias understood it was intentional. The hand extended, finger pointing, not at Elias, but beyond him, toward the distant outline of the ranch house. It wasn't a threat, it was a reminder. Elias felt cold spread through him, deeper than fear, deeper than guilt. His legs refused to move. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The air felt thick, pressing down on his shoulders, and for a terrible moment he thought the ground itself might open and swallow him where he sat. The figure took one step forward. The sound of it, boot against stone, was soft but final. His mare screamed. She reared suddenly, front hooves clawing the air. Elias barely managed to grab the saddle horn as she spun and bolted, driven by pure instinct. Dust exploded beneath her hooves as she ran, carrying him away whether he wanted to go or not. He didn't look back. He couldn't. The shape of that face was burned behind his eyes already. When he finally hauled the reins hard enough to slow her, his hands were shaking so badly he almost lost them again. He slid from the saddle and dropped to his knees, gasping, the world swimming. The sky had darkened to deep red, the sun nearly gone. Samuel stood a short distance away, pale and silent, his horse trembling beside him. "It won't follow," the boy said quietly after a moment. "It never does. It just waits." Elias forced himself to stand. His legs felt weak, like they belonged to someone else. He turned back toward the ravine, heart hammering, half expecting to see the figure closer now. There was nothing. Just shadow. Just bad land. Just the place he had pretended not to remember. As the last of the sun dipped behind the hills, understanding settled over him with crushing weight. Some places weren't cursed by strangers or monsters. They were cursed by choices. By lies told often enough to sound like truth. And once you looked, you never truly looked away again.